Who are the top 24 running backs in Dynasty under the age of 24?
Well,
That's what we're looking at today. We are tier ranking running backs under the age of 24 for Dynasty football. Do us a favor, drop a like to show some support.
Come on.
Subscribe if you like Dynasty content.
You already
And I
know.
want you to comment down below who is a running back that is not broken out that you think will this year. And speaking of running backs under 24, there's this really cool feature on Flock Fantasy's website. Go ahead and sign up with our code LAND, LAND, flockfantasy.com/land. There's a really cool feature in our rankings where you can look at rankings just based off of age. So you can look at players under 25, under 24. You can look at only veterans from ages 25 to 30. Very, very cool depending on what strategy you are using. Go check that out. Again, use our code LAND to get 30% off when signing up. But Badake, these tiers look really weird for me, but I tried to stay exactly true to how I felt about them at this very moment. So only running backs under the age of 24. We're going to go from tier 6 all the way up to tier 1. So why don't you tell me who you got in this tier 6 and let's get this thing rolling.
Okay, tier 6, definitely a little bit difficult, but I guess I'll start off with Isaiah Pacheco. I have in this tier 6. A guy we keep saying we just see another running back coming into this backfield. The age is there, but can he stay on the field? Maybe it's a 50-50 workload. Maybe it's not the ideal workload we're all expecting. At least the fantasy community is expecting with Pacheco.
Yeah, I hear you on Pacheco. We've been known to be Pacheco haters. I don't think that we're haters. We're just not about. I think he's like RB24 according to the community right now. Just all running backs. And the history of a 7th round running back is not something that I want to bet on. And just looking at that Chiefs offense, I know he was very efficient, but I would not be at all surprised if another running back is added to that backfield. And the running back position, specifically with what Pacheco's role was, just wasn't reliable for fantasy. So I'm skeptical, but I still like the player. Yeah, I'm with you there, though. I have him right there as well. All right, next player. Who do you got here?
I also have big old Roscoe in this tier.
Okay, Rashawn Johnson.
Yeah,
okay,
Rashawn Johnson. Once again, a guy that we can see a role. I feel like the NFL is leading towards these bigger backs right now. I don't know why. There's so many smaller backs in coming into the draft where I feel like these bigger backs are going to be more valuable in the NFL's eyes potentially. Could be wrong. We'll see what happens. But I have Roscoe in this tier. I also have, I don't know if you want to say anything.
I'll just say quickly, though, I have Rashawn Johnson significantly further up this tier. I have him in this tier, but I might be a little bit higher on him than you might be.
Definitely
6'2",
like
223.
Yeah.
This dude is a mammoth of a man. And the only reason he's not getting more respect is because of Bijan Robinson in my mind. I mean, he's a pretty good pass catcher as well. So you could see some sort of Ramondre Stevenson type career arc. Now, that's easy. That's difficult for people to see now because Ramondre Stevenson we see as this top 10 fantasy scoring option. But Ramondre Stevenson was like a 4th round pick, came out late, was not polished at all. But when you look at Rashawn Johnson, 110 snaps were receiving routes for him. Yeah. That's 37.8% of his total snaps. Yeah, he actually lined up as a receiver 13.5% of the time. So this is a player who don't underestimate. My ceiling is Ramondre Stevenson. My floor is like a Latavius Murray, Hassan Haskins type player. But I really like him when you look at the rest of this class. So I would have him a little bit further up.
Where do you have him right now?
Let me tell you the players I have in between him. Okay. Tyler Algier.
Yep.
I'm anticipating Rashawn Johnson getting better draft capital than Tyler Algier. Now, that might not be true. We'll have to wait and see what the NFL thinks about him. I could be wrong on that.
Right.
I know you're going to hate this. This is where I would have Cam Akers.
That's okay.
We'll talk about let's just talk about that real quick because to me, we so easily forget that this team was done with Cam Akers last year. They were done. They were ready to move on from a player who has the worst injury that a running back can have historically. Now, why did he look good to end the season? Well, he looked good. Give him credit for sure. But it's my belief that they were trying to bring his value to a place where they could now sell him. I don't think that Cam Akers is this piece that they believe that they're going to build around or that they're going to give this long-term contract given the injury. So I think the Rams are a sneaky team that I feel confident they're going to draft a running back this year. And people who are kind of stuck with Cam Akers are just going to be like, oh, damn, we're doing the same thing again. It's a different year. So I like just projecting what will happen by September, October. I think I'm taking Rashawn Johnson over Cam Akers right now. Now, if Rashawn Johnson goes out there and gets 5th round draft capital, of course I need to adjust.
Right.
I know you have Cam Akers higher than this. I would assume though, because you're a Cam Akers.
Yeah, I
person.
am a Cam Akers guy. I actually don't have him as high maybe as you think. I have him at tier 5, so he's not tier 6, but I can definitely see.
Oh wow, you have him tier 5.
Yeah, I'm tier 5. I can definitely see where you're coming from in that scenario. The only reason why I have him tier 5 is because if they do move on from Cam Akers, what team is that going to be? Is he going to go into a full workload, kind of like what we saw in the second half of the season with the Rams, or is he going to go to a 50-50 workload where we're not necessarily sure what's going to happen? In this injury, I think this is probably the best injury comeback that we've seen from a running back, I would say.
I just don't know how we look at the running back market this offseason and say Cam Akers is going to be fantasy relevant if he leaves the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
Like no one wanted him in the trade market last year.
Yeah, I can definitely
and
understand.
The way that the free agency has panned out, like I don't know how Cam fits into that. Look, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8 players ahead of Cam Akers.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like I find it ridiculous to put him in tier 5. We'll have a conversation about that later.
That's fair.
I got AJ Dillon as well in between Rashawn Johnson and this little area here. I'm having to ask myself, do I want AJ Dillon right now, knowing Aaron Jones is going to be there for a little while still on a contract year?
Mm-hmm.
Last year was supposed to be the year he was going to break out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, am I just sitting with a dead asset, or is he really going to be one of these late bloomers like Derrick Henry was? It's difficult to see that happening at this very point because Derrick Henry didn't have an Aaron Jones ahead of him.
Right.
So like right now, but for Rashawn Johnson and AJ Dillon, again, Rashawn and all these players is going to come down to draft capital, but I'm just betting on Rashawn at this very point.
I would definitely agree with you. I had a hard time putting Cam Akers in this tier as a whole, personally, because we haven't seen that that workload, that opportunity from AJ Dillon. So I'm a bit hesitant to have him, but right now he is not ranked in this top 24.
AJ Dillon isn't.
No, he is not.
Okay, I mean, man, that's a lot of projecting. Then we know AJ Dillon's a good running back.
He is a good running back, but we haven't
know he's
seen,
a good talent.
Like I feel like these rookie running backs have a significantly higher ceiling, obviously based off draft capital, the way we're projecting, than AJ Dillon than what we've seen.
Then I
past.
guess I just don't understand why Cam Akers is tier 5 if AJ Dillon's not even ranked.
Right.
Like AJ Dillon is a better running back today in the NFL than Cam Akers is.
But
we
AJ
know his
Dillon
situation is probably going to stay the same, and he has no Achilles injury.
Mm-hmm.
I
understand.
I just don't understand how Akers
I get it. I
can be
think
higher
like
than AJ Dillon.
we've seen more than Akers personally. In my opinion, I've seen significantly more than Akers. I don't think there is another running back in front of Akers at this very moment. And yeah, maybe I have to readjust when they do draft a running back. But right now, I personally, the way I'm projecting is that Aaron Jones is going to continue to be this lead back, and AJ Dillon is just going to be a fantasy, I guess a fantasy bust. He's still talented. He's still talented without a doubt. But I think in the fantasy world, he's just not that guy that we were projecting coming in.
What percentage chance is Cam Akers the only running back after the draft there, though?
Oh, it's definitely not high. I would definitely agree. But I think even if the Rams bring in another running back, I am projecting higher for Cam Akers over AJ Dillon still.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's fair. I mean, look, I have him back to back. I don't get how.
Yeah, and that's that's what we see differently. So,
okay, we're just not going to agree on that one, and that is okay. But I mean, I don't know how we have him in tier 5 with some of the other players. I have Sean Tucker here in tier 6, a player that we both like, but there has been absolutely no buzz right now. In fact, if you look at NFL mock draft database, like he is the 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, like 15th running back, according to their consensus big board, which tries to take in all the mock drafts from all the experts across the, kind of across the pond, if you will, kind of tries to collect data from everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, Sean Tucker's name is around the Eric Grays, the Tavion Thomases, Keaton Mitchells. And it's just a database. It doesn't mean anything, but this is a player that we might have to let go of at some point. The idea that he's going to have a good opportunity to be fantasy relevant if draft
Exactly.
capital is not there.
I completely agree. I do have him in this tier 6 as well. I just can't argue. I don't have anything to back it up. Like he hasn't been in his pro day. He hasn't been in his combine. All I can tell you is what he's done in college, and I really hope that he at least gets day 3 capital. And that's what I'm believing and projecting right now is at least day 3. If not day 3, then
Well, day 3 would be bad. That's the last day of the draft.
I'm saying like you're right, day 3. So I'm saying round 3, excuse me. So I'm talking about if at least round 3 draft capital, then I'm still clinging on to Sean Tucker.
Okay.
Hopefully with a good landing spot, but if it's not at least round 3, then he kind of falls for sure for me.
All right, I have James Cook as well in this tier. I'm really struggling right now with like James Cook. I have Tajay Spears here. Tajay Spears and James Cook. Like I'm really struggling right now between these two in my rankings because I know James Cook's situation, arguably James Cook's situation could get worse. Like right now it's only Damian Harris, but we see Bijan get mocked there all the time. And as good as Damian Harris has been when healthy, that's not going to stop them from drafting like a Charbonnet or a Bijan or a Gibbs, in my mind at least. I'm not saying they will, but it's not like off the table. Whereas Tajay, right now, if we look at consensus mock draft boards, he's, I believe, the 4th or 5th running back projected to go off the board in the first 77 picks. So that gives you a little bit of comfort knowing that he's probably going to have a different situation, maybe similar draft capital, but a better situation than what James Cook had last year coming in. So I find that very difficult. James Cook, it's really the pass catching that's gonna project him to be a fantasy relevant option if it is just Damian Harris now. I mean, Damian Harris is when there are rare opportunities at the goal line for a running back, not Josh Allen, it's going to be Damian Harris. It's going to be the guy who scored 10 plus touchdowns in seasons previously. So I don't know where you sit with those two, but I have them in tier 6 as well.
I have Tajay in my tier 6. I have James Cook in my tier 5. I am projecting a significant workload for James Cook coming into this year. So I can definitely agree and understand where you're coming from, where like if there's another running back that does come in, and if they bring in a Bijan, of course James is done with Damian. If a Charbonnet comes in, of course James is done with the Damian. But if they bring in someone different, a Kendre or something like that, I think James Cook still has a pathway to be the pass catching back in the air, which
that should be his role.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay if they bring in that sort of running back. But if they bring in these high caliber guys, I would say even from Roscoe all the way up, if they bring in a Tank, a Roscoe, these bigger backs that comes in, I'm not necessarily scared. But they bring in a smaller pass catching guy, like a Zach Evans type, hypothetically, right? A Devin A-Chain, someone like that. I think that's when we have to reevaluate. Hey, we're gonna have to reevaluate James Cook and his projection. But right now, I feel pretty confident in where I have him.
Yeah, labeling Zach Evans as a pass catcher is very interesting.
We'll see.
Considering people are like, he's not a good pass catcher.
I think that's and I've said this before. I think that's going to be his role if he does come into the NFL. I don't think he's all down back. In my projections, we see that differently already. So that's how I'm seeing him.
I mean, I don't know that he's going to be a 3-down workhorse, but I think he's going to have some sort of involvement more than just a pass catcher if the draft capital is there. And speaking of Zach Evans, I also have him in this tier 6. I personally was very happy with his testing. Is it a 4.45? Is it a 4.5? I don't care. I think he's like, personally for me, I've said this over and over. He weighed in at 208 at his pro day. People and this 40 time, it's like it's living rent free in their head. Oh, he wasn't in the 4.3s. What? Like, what do you mean? 4.45 is such a good number for a running back. Regardless, I have him here in tier 6. I also have Devin A-Chain here in tier 6. If I had to move either James Cook or Cam Akers, I would be moving James Cook. But I guess, if you have both of those guys up here in tier 5, we'll have to make a decision between one of them because I have both of them in tier 6.
Yeah, no, I think let's wait and see what that looks like. Is this all you have right now? Is that what you're saying?
That's all I have in tier 6.
Okay, that's all you have in tier 6. So I'm happy to wait unless there is somebody else in one of these tier 4s all the way up to tier 2, I would say, that we probably disagree on, and then we can kind of mesh it out.
Sure. Well, I don't have Cam Akers or James Cook in tier 5. I'm asking you which one you would like to advocate for tier 5.
I would say I would advocate for James Cook over Cam Akers at this moment.
Okay. Yeah. Again, just so everyone knows, I have Cam Akers right behind AJ Dillon here. I'm taking all the shots on these guys right now without knowing draft capital, but I mean, we're kind of talking about like these players being potential 202 options in Superflex rookie drafts. Evans, A-Chain, Spears, Tucker, Rashawn. Are you paying the 202 for Cam Akers right now?
It all depends on honestly, it all depends on draft capital for some of the guys, and then also depends on if they bring in somebody else for Cam Akers. I can't confidently say I'm going to be happily pay the 202 for Cam, but I would say I'm happily paying the 202 for James Cook, if that makes any sense. So I would
give the 202 for James Cook right now.
I would definitely consider it. Yeah, I would consider
No, I'm asking, would you do it right now, today? I give you the 202, you get James Cook.
I would consider it.
Give me a yes or no answer. Be definitive here.
I'm saying I it just all depends on the player, on the landing spot. Like I wouldn't be able to do it right now, I would say, because I don't know the landing spots.
And that's what I struggle with. We're already struggling with James Cook being in this tier 5. Okay, that's okay. If you love him so much, I don't understand how that's a difficult question, but anyway,
if Tajay Spears gets second
all
round
these
draft
players
capital,
down below, we're talking about potential 202 options, and you can't commit to James Cook, who's a tier ahead of him.
But I'm saying if some of these guys don't get the draft capital, then of course I'm gonna have James Cook. If they don't get draft capital, then of course I'm gonna do it. I know what James Cook is bringing right now. I know his role. I don't know these guys' role. I don't know where Sean Tucker's gonna go. I don't know where Tajay Spears is gonna go. That's why I'm confident in taking James Cook and Cam Akers, because I know what I've seen before. Does the situation change there? Absolutely. Do these landing spots change? But I'm projecting of what I understand right now, and how I'm moving forward.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, here in tier 5, why don't you tell us what players you have there?
Okay, so right now I have Chase Brown downtown in tier 5.
Okay, this is interesting then.
Mind you, I don't have him in front of James Cook and Cam Akers. So he is behind them.
I don't have Chase Brown ranked right now.
Well, that's just something we see differently.
Okay, so wow. I mean, Chase Brown ahead of all these guys. Fair enough.
Well, he's my RB5, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So he's definitely ahead of all those guys.
All right. I don't know what to do. Who else do you have then?
I feel like it's more difficult for me to tell you what I have than.
Oh, I'm trying to meet you in the middle. I'm trying, these is nothing what my rankings would look like. I'm trying to.
I understand. Okay, who else do I have here? I also have. Actually, that Chase Brown, James Cook. I also have Rachaad White here.
Yeah, I've got Rachaad White here as well, and that's what I'm struggling with. I got Rachaad White here. I've got Dameon Pierce here. And I've got Abani Konda here.
I'm there with you. I'm there with you with all those guys.
And that's why I'm struggling, because I feel really good about Rachaad White and Dameon Pierce at this moment, and it's a dream scenario that Chase Brown falls into a scenario that White and Pierce are in.
For sure. So I can understand that. I can understand that perspective for sure. So maybe I need to move Chase Brown down, which I completely understand. I think once again I'll feel more confident still having James. That's why I guess here I have James Cook and Cam Akers. That was my thought process. But I will agree there. Maybe having Chase Brown in tier 5 doesn't make any sense.
So yeah, let's put him. I don't know where to put him. I don't have him ranked again. But let's put him.
Well, I don't have AJ Dillon ranked, so you can put him by AJ Dillon if that makes any sense.
Sure, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm still going Pacheco, Algier over Brown at this point. I don't dislike Brown. I do like Chase Brown. At the moment, he's getting a little bit of love from NFL mock draft database. Had a really good combine. Had a horrendous Senior Bowl. We'll have to see what NFL teams really think about this player. But he and Zach Evans are pretty close in ADP at the moment. Zach Evans is ahead. Tank Bigsby is ahead. but definitely a player depending on draft capital that we both could be all in on, no doubt.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure what the NFL thinks just yet about him. Okay, I don't have anyone else in my tier 5 here. Don't know about you.
No, I don't.
You didn't mention Dameon Pierce. Do you have Dameon Pierce in tier 4 then?
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize you had. No, I don't have him in tier 4. I have him in tier. Sorry, I do have him in tier 4. Excuse me. I have him. I thought. Yeah, I do have him in tier 4.
Okay.
I have him over Rashad and Izzy and all those guys.
All right. Okay. All right.
Once again, just a difference that we see. They could bring another running back, but I feel pretty confident in where Dameon Pierce is at, his role. They're probably going to bring in a third down guy, a pass catching guy. If they're bringing a Devin A chain, I'm not necessarily extremely worried about the goal line touches, the 1-2 down opportunities for Dameon Pierce. So I'm happy to keep him, at least to have him in tier 4 for me.
Sure. I guess I would see the same thing for Rachaad White. In fact, Rachaad White's had his own head coach come out and say we want him to be a 3-down running back.
Mm-hmm.
Team is clearly in a rebuild. Don't know why they would draft a running back. It's possible, but I don't know why they would.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I feel like Dameon Pierce, they could add a complementary piece for sure. So to me, having Rachaad White and Dameon Pierce in different tiers, I can't get with it. I don't know
for sure, and
how they're not as valuable as each other.
I can understand that. I think I'm more on the fence with Rachaad White, even though head coach has come out and said that. I think this team, what they need.
You think they're in different tiers though? Is what you're saying? Like that's what I'm struggling because like tiers, I'm thinking about where I'm drafting them in a startup. You thinking Dameon Pierce is like 2 rounds ahead of Rachaad White,
right?
Or like what's the thought there?
For me, I would say yes, because Rachaad White, in the way I am projecting him, is that the way I project this team is for them to draft another running back, and I don't see Rachaad White as the all down guy. And like I would agree. Like I love that the head coach come out and said that, and that could be a good backing for the argument. But if they do draft a running back, that is. The thing is, I don't think Rachaad White is a first and second down guy. He's just the pass catching one. Where I think Dameon Pierce is the goal line, and he could be the pass catching guy if they don't draft another running back, right? So I just think the chances of Rachaad White and the Bucs drafting another running back is significantly higher than Dameon Pierce, where I can just see another role. Somebody comes in and takes Rachaad White's role. I can see a Tank come in and take it. I can see a Tajay Spears come in and take it. Where I think Dameon Pierce, I don't think he comes in and gets his workload taken away outside of the air, personally, where I see Rachaad White getting his workload taken on the ground and potentially in the air if that back is a pass catching back. So I would understand how you see that. I think that's why I'm comfortable taking Dameon Pierce, a round or 2 higher than Rachaad White.
Yeah, I personally don't understand it. I hear you. I don't really understand that, but to me, they're just as valuable as each other. In fact, Rachaad White had better draft capital last year. The team invested more. They invested a 3rd-round pick. I think it was like 16, 20 spots higher than Dameon Pierce. So, again, I don't see how Pierce is more valuable than Rachaad White, but maybe I'm missing something. Here into tier 4, and again, this is where it gets very difficult for me. Like, we're putting Dameon Pierce. I have DeAndre Swift here. I have J.K. Dobbins here. And I have Javonte Williams here. And for me, Dameon Pierce isn't like I wouldn't draft Dameon Pierce around these players in a draft. He wouldn't be someone I would consider when these players are available on the board.
Sorry, right. I can see that. I can definitely see that. I do have all those. Actually, I have JK in tier 3, but that's a different argument because I am significantly higher than JK than you are. But I do have Javonte and Swift here. And once again, the reason why I see these guys in the same tier is because Swift is getting a 50-50 workload. Now, Javonte, we don't know where he's going to be and how he's going to come out and be healthy. And we project also another running back coming in here. I just feel a lot more comfortable in the Dameon Pierce situation over. I still believe Javonte and Swifty is more talented than Dameon Pierce. But I think the situation where Dameon Pierce is at right now feels really safe, at least for me. At least my my opinion, how I'm projecting, feels really safe in the tier 4. So I guess I'm gonna have to choose one because you don't have JK in tier 2 or tier 3, excuse me, and I don't have Dameon Pierce in tier 4. All right. Okay, so then why don't we move J.K. Dobbins down? Because
What? You don't have J.K. Dobbins in tier 4?
no, I said that. I said I have him in tier 3.
You want to move him down?
So I have J.K. Dobbins in tier 3.
Okay, so you want to move him up.
I move him down to tier 4 because you have him in tier 4, if that makes sense.
Okay. To me, what makes more sense is moving Dameon Pierce down here. Again, I can't wrap my head around how Dameon Pierce and Rachaad White, there's this huge gap in their value, but maybe I just have to say, it is what it is. So you want to move J.K. Dobbins?
I'm happy to move J.K. Dobbins. No, I want to move J.K. Dobbins down and keep Dameon Pierce in tier 4. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. All right.
But I get, that's just once again something we see differently.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, in my tier 3, I have Zach Charbonnet and Najee Harris. Those are the only 2 running backs that I have there. I think they're very equally valued, and depending on draft capital, I could see myself preferring Charbonnet over Harris at this very point.
Yeah, I'm there with you in tier 3 so far. When do we agree on?
That's it. That's all I have.
Yeah, I'm there with you.
Okay, I only have one player in my tier 2, and that is Jahmyr Gibbs. He is a player to me that I feel very confident has more value than everyone that's below him. I would draft him, higher than these other players, assuming he gets, let's say, top 40, top 50 draft capital.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's potentially a true game-changing PPR running back. The likes that we've seen of, I'm not going to say he's as good as Christian McCaffrey. I'm not going to say he's as good as Austin Eckler, but that's the kind of ceiling that you're chasing with a player like Jahmyr Gibbs. And I think it's possible. Like, play style very similar to Aaron Jones, very similar to people say Alvin Kamara. It's a little bit too much for me, but like Swift and Aaron Jones is kind of what I feel I'm looking at when I look at Jahmyr Gibbs here at tier 2.
Right. Okay, so I have this one a little bit differently. So I would definitely agree, but what I have right now is Bijan just in my tier 1, and then I have the rest of the guys in tier 2, if that makes any sense. But I saw how you built it.
Okay.
Does that make any sense? So how I have it? Because I still have Bijan in tier 1, but I would agree the way that you have it that they can be in tier 1 as well.
Okay, so you don't have Brees in the same tier as Bijan.
No, because I just have Bijan as number 1 in my tier, if that makes any sense. So then I have the rest of those guys. I have the rest of those exactly like that. But I think it makes sense the way you did it as well. If you understand, because Bijan RB1 right now, I think he's going to be the generational guy. Still, I understand that how you have it, putting JT, I'm assuming Brees, Ken Walker, Travis Etienne in tier 1.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's the same thing.
I have Bijan as my running back 1, but again, I don't see how Bijan and Brees and Jonathan Taylor, Kenneth Walker are like in this different stratosphere, of value.
Right. And I don't see it the way I built it. Is like I don't see that they're completely different stratosphere. I think this is probably, this is the way I'm seeing it. Is like, okay, if this is in a dynasty startup, Bijan's the 111, and then Jonathan Taylor you can take from the 203 with all those guys down. So it's very minuscule, but I think it's just the way we built it was a little bit different.
Okay, so I hear you.
And I wouldn't disagree with the way you built it either. So I'm not saying that I'm happy to change it. I'm happy to keep it. So I don't disagree I'm assuming you have from Brees to Etienne in tier 1 and then just Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. I think
that's fair.
We already have people who in the comments are like, I don't understand how you guys have Bijan RB1 overall without him even taking the field.
Right.
And I'm comfortable with that.
But
having Bijan over Brees Hall, superstar. Over Jonathan Taylor, superstar. Ken Walker, superstar. Travis Etienne, superstar. We've seen it with our own eyes in the NFL. Not in the same tier. I struggle with that personally.
Sure. And I'm happy to put all those guys up top the way you did it. Because once again, very minuscule in the way that I kind of did it in the startup, where once again from the 111 you can take Bijan, and then from the 203 you can take JT and all those guys. So that's how I was thinking about it.
Sure. No, I hear you. Well, I don't think we had more disagreements on a video in quite some time. My personal rankings would look drastically different, but I definitely I can understand where you're coming from. I might not agree with where you're coming from on some of these, but I can respect your decisions and your reasoning. But that was a difficult one to make because it's only these players that are in a certain category. It's not the entire position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely was, and this is what happens when these rookies are here. You know, like maybe we project them differently. Maybe we don't. Maybe we project these guys to take roles from the Cam Makers, the Cooks, whoever, the Rashad Whites, whether you agree or disagree. This is why we do rankings. Everyone's rankings is different, you know?
For sure. All right, guys, that is it for today. Do us a favor, drop a like to show some support. Subscribe if you like Dynasty content, and we will see you guys in the next video. All love. Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, LAND, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh.
It's so easy, even your grandma could scan that QR code right there.